We're now joined via Zoom by Dr. Chris de Kock, who's an independent crime analyst. Dr. de Kock, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program. This report, were there any surprises, or is it showing trends that we should have expected?
Look, on the perception side, you know, the feelings of safety and perceptions about safety, there I don't think there's any surprises, and I think those findings are sound findings. That is the type of findings that we can expect from a victim survey like this. And so there's no surprises. Actually, people will feel more and more unsafe as they experience crime. But now I must say that I have got a major problem with these surveys. And I say it every year when it is released this time of the year. For the last, from 2016, 17, I, on many TV programs and news bulletins and places said, this I reject the way in which Stats South Africa calculate the so-called crime figures which they release. You know, they even now talk of this as a sort of a alternative source of crime statistics. They refer to 1,439,000 housebreakings, when the police in that very same year, that's last year, 21-22, had their stats say there was 156,078. Now that is about a tenth of the figure of Stats South Africa. Yeah. Now we all know there's underreporting, that I agree with fully. But Stats South Africa find on that score of housebreaking, they say that under the people who report housebreaking was 59.2%. Now what one can then expect is the 156,078 that the police publish should be, there should be additional 31 or 41% that should be added. And then you come to a figure of 263,645, which is still about a fifth of the figure that is published by Stats South Africa. I just have to say, this surveys cost millions of rand of the taxpayer. And now what we do is we are actually painting a picture of South Africa which nobody will touch.
I was actually going to ask you about that. I was quite shocked when I saw this 1.4 million, because that translates to 3,800 housebreakings every day. And that's just an incredible amount. I mean, I can't even see it. But be that as it may, how do they calculate? Have they explained?
You see, what they do, and I don't agree with that methodology, I have a different methodology, is that they take the survey results, they take the responses of people who said, look, we were a victim of housebreaking. They then take it back to the population figures, the census figures, and they calculate on the basis of those figures so-called crime figures. And they then come to a conclusion that there was 1.4 million housebreakings. My view is that the police have already told us that there was 156,078 housebreakings reported to them, and they have registered those. But we know people don't always report. If they don't have, for example, insurance, they won't report. And they may not trust the police. And they may say, it was a small housebreaking, not much was taken, so we're not going to report it. So, but that figure, that underreporting figure is about 40%. And you can then calculate, my way of calculating will be taking the police figures and then adjust for the underreporting, which was founded by Stats South Africa and which I accept. This is the underreporting figure.
All right.
Now, if you look at something like what is interesting, you must remember, not everybody is a house owner. Not everybody have got a house. You can't go back to the population. It's like, and they don't publish that, but many years ago, they did publish it. There's like stock theft. We are not, myself and you, on, well, I don't know about you, I can't speak for you, but I'm not a stock owner. I don't have, sheep and cattle and things like that. I'm living here in the city. I don't own a farm. And so you can't, if you now take stock theft, the underreporting of stock theft, and you then go to the population figures, you will come to an absolute figure which you can reject from the start. Let's take something like carjacking. Let's take something like carjacking. You know, carjacking, not everybody have got cars in South Africa. We sometimes think everybody have got cars, but it's only a few people, actually, a small percentage. Now, the police say there were 20,976 carjackings reported to them. Stats South Africa found that only 62.9% report these carjackings. So if you now adjust the figure, maybe the real figure was something like 33,000 something. But they say no. They say no. Calculated on the population figures that it is 137,000. Now, my problem with that is that it will create exactly this feelings of unsafety. If people read these things, they say, oh, no. I mean, everybody is about a victim. It also creates a very wrong image of South Africa abroad, because you must remember your figures of your statistical service in any country is taken as sort of the gospel truth. So, and I've never seen two state departments in any country, the police on the one hand and Statistics South Africa on the other hand, issuing two different sets of stats. I've never seen it. I mean, they are all from the same government. They are not from different governments.
Yeah. The underreporting, that would then be also an extrapolation, because the police can't measure the underreporting. Stats SA is basing on a survey of 30,000 people as a sample of the 60 million people in the country and extrapolating so that the underreporting also might be out.
Yeah, but I think that can be true. But I think if you ask that sample, look, I've got a lot of trust in Stats South Africa in how they do their surveys, their samples. I think there's no doubt those are scientifically correct. And if you ask that sample, which then represents South Africa, did you report this crime? I think you can, that figure is a good indication. And we must accept that there is on many crimes a large percentage underreporting. But you can't then take it directly back to the population figures. You should take the police figures and then adjust the police figures according to those underreporting percentages for different categories of crime.
All right, so how do we use this information? Because statistics are there not just to have a nice little magazine on the table, but what do the authorities do? What does the police do with the information that they've seen in this report?
Well, hopefully the police will take notice of the underreporting, and they will know that in a case of, for example, carjacking, that there is about a third of the people, a little bit more than a third of the people of South Africa, which got hijacked, which didn't report the hijacking. And that will then give them a good indication that, you know, we only work with half of the truth here, or a quarter of the truth, or whatever. But the police can't do much with these statistics, the so-called statistics of Stats South Africa. I mean, 1,5 or 1,4 million housebreakings. I just that figure is just unacceptable to me. If that figure is true, you must remember that Stats South Africa certify the stats of the South Africa Police Service as official figures. They are the people who certify that as the official figures. Now, if these figures of Stats South Africa, if they stand by these figures and say, no, finish and clear, this is the figures, then they can't certify the police figures as the truth or as correct.
All right, and perhaps finally, the underreporting then.
So we have quite a conflict here.
Yeah. Perhaps in conclusion, the underreporting as well, I guess, is an indicator of the lack of faith and trust and belief in the police's ability to solve crime. I know personally that I would only report something because it's an insurance requirement. Beyond that, I probably won't.
Yeah, no, it's an indication of trust or mistrust in the police. That is true, but there can also be quite a few other factors. You know, I mean, if especially on some crimes, some less serious crimes, maybe it's not worthwhile going to report it. But I agree with you. I think one of the main issues that influence underreporting is a mistrust.
All right, Dr. de Kock.
Can I just add?
Yes.
You see, there's two factors.
Yep,
there's two factors that influence crime stats. It's the underreporting and the underregistration. And if this is an indication of underregistration, then we have got serious problems.
All right, Dr. de Kock, always great talking to you. Thank you so much indeed for making sense of something that doesn't seem to make sense. Thanks so much for your time.